Have you ever wanted to accomplish something and you just could not get out of your own way to do it? Well, today I am talking with Kayla Burch. She is a business and mindset coach. She is based out of Oklahoma and she is incredible. She has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs make more money in their businesses. And she really gets to the root of pushing past your barriers or your limiting beliefs and just getting to a place of no more excuses so that you can accomplish those things that you really want to accomplish. And I am so fortunate to be able to have a conversation with her today and really get some good insight on how to break down our mental barriers and how to get out of our own way so that we can succeed in business, in life, in relationships. And this is really good information. So if this is something you're interested in, then just keep watching. Hey guys, it's Christina Langridge from Christina Langridge Personal Styling. I hope you are doing well today. Today, I have had the immense pleasure of talking with Kayla Burch, who is a business and mindset coach. We recorded the call via Zoom for my private Facebook group, Art Style with Christina Langridge. If you are not in that group and you would like to check it out, I will leave all the information below. And in being a stylist and working with clients, I get a lot of questions on mindset actually, which is they're going to go hand in hand. When working with clients and going through their wardrobes, there is often a mindset shift that has to happen in order for them to really leave behind their old beliefs of looking and feeling good in their own body. So speaking with Kayla is really very special to kind of just give her the questions that I've been asked, that I've had from clients over the course of my career, and just ask her of how people can really change their mindsets and really just reprogram themselves for success. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Kayla, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you're here. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited that we could have this call today.
Yeah, even though it took a little bit of a took some time to get it going.
Exactly how it should be, right?
I know. Nothing's ever easy. That's worth it,
Mhm.
right?
That's right.
So I have some questions for you, and I'm going to be looking over to the other side, so don't think I'm not looking at you. I am. I'm just reading them all off. So first off, a lot
No
of people
problem.
want to know is exactly like what do you do? What is like a mindset coach? What is a business coach?
Yeah. So for me, the reason why I like to use mindset and business together is because I believe that that's one of the missing pieces as entrepreneurs, as we're trying to up level our business, is there's a lot of ways that we get in our own way and we self-sabotage. So we can have all of the plans laid out. We can have the best. So you could, steal someone's copy as you hear. But if you're not going to apply it, if you're just going to show up with your toxic behaviors and self-sabotaging patterns, then you're just going to be spinning and spinning and be exactly where you are today or next year that you are today. So the way I approach it is I really get in there really, really deep into a lot of old beliefs that have just really ingrained in us that are showing up for us now. And that is usually what we lean back into. Right. So we think, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. Back when I tried it before, I didn't do it. So why would I be able to do it now?
Yeah.
I'm worried about the outcome. So we really dive deep into that and switch the mindset around it so you can actually have a growing business and be able to ultimately make that business thrive and pay yourself a lot more than you do now.
Oh, I love that. And everybody wants to make more money, so that's great, especially now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Mm-hmm.
So how do you work on changing someone's mindset then to get over those mental blocks so that they can become successful in business and life and, all their goals that they have?
Yeah. So working one-to-one, one thing that I do say if we're working one-to-one together, there's a lot of intuitive tells that you'll do as an individual that will show me where your blocks are just by some language that you use. And we typically would dive deep into that. So it's uncovering that, but also in group settings, it's really the ability to probe the right questions for you to reflect inward to see what it is that actually is blocking you. So it's from a lot of just like questions and answers, more questions and answers, more questions and answers. Getting to that nitty gritty, that deep seated belief that is likely the big derail for you.
I see. I actually had a coach a long time ago, and it was always like, why? She'd be like, but why? But why? But why? And go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, if I only knew to ask myself why, like half the
Right.
time,
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
be so far ahead than where I am because I
Yeah.
feel like our minds are just they can be so toxic. against us and really just
Mhm.
hold us back from doing all kinds of things that we, and it can be any area of life. It doesn't have to be just business. It could be just like,
Yeah.
being a good person, being a good wife, being a good
Mhm.
mother, being a good worker, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting to hear.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of work to get
Yeah.
down to the
I
bottom.
always I always like to think, and I don't know who said it originally, but it's that I would never spend a minute with somebody who talked to me the way that I talk to myself, but I'm
Right.
trapped in this mind for 24 hours a day. And I thought, man, that's so profound because it's so true. You would just tell someone to screw off, right? Like if someone talked to you like that, you'd be like, no, thank you. And
Right.
you'd turn around and leave. You wouldn't even remotely
Yeah.
satisfy that. But for us, we engage in it, right? We thrive off of it and
Right.
it's our default. And so it's really getting to why that's a default and then creating a new default response pattern.
So that is possible because I know a lot of people think like, oh, I can never get over these
Mhm.
negative thoughts, or I have such bad
Yeah.
anxiety around things that I can never
Yeah.
overcome it. So
Mhm.
you're saying that you can help them like really just work through those issues,
Yeah.
overcome
Mhm.
those, and then
Absolutely.
create
Mhm.
new patterns and new
Yeah.
thinking and a new way of talking to yourself. So it's not so.
Yeah, I've worked with hundreds of clients do this very same thing, specifically around the mindset and just creating new patterns. And so it's very much doable. So with that being said, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean that you'll never think a negative thought, but the tools and the resources and the skills that you gain can help you get back on track quicker. So now it's not the thoughts that are running you. They're just kind of like those annoying little like it just kind of comes and goes, right? Instead of it just being the constant pace of your thoughts.
Okay, so you can talk yourself out of those bad thoughts and
Yeah. You can switch real quick and you can see
put
what
something
your triggers are. Yeah. You see what your triggers are prior to. So then a lot of times you don't even put yourself into those places that you are now. And you definitely don't spin out of control. So there's a lot more control over our mindset to be able to get it back on track.
right. Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. So, how do you help someone find confidence then to overcome those things so that they
Yeah.
can be better?
Yeah, so a lot of times the lack of confidence really comes from those limiting beliefs, right? Those old stories that we've told ourselves. So a lot of things are, and sometimes the thing is that maybe they were validated in a real life experience. So we thought, man, I'm not capable. But and then you tried something and you failed, right? The outcome wasn't of success. So you're like, well, that was validated. I do suck. Or yeah, I'm not great at that.
Yeah.
But what we go back into those moments is we look at, well, first of all, that wasn't the right thing for me, right? Maybe that wasn't meant for me, but what was meant for me out of that? What was I supposed to learn?
Mhm.
Right? So when we look at everything in our life as a lesson, every event, good or bad, we learn something from. So what is that we take away from it? And then we see the skills that we gained, whether the outcome was horrible or not. And then that's how we build our confidence because we say, well, I survived that. I accomplished this. Now I can apply it here. And then we start to just we really start to put ourselves in the place of success. And another thing with lack of confidence is that you think you're going to fail, then that's what you're looking for. That's the experience that you'll have, even
Right.
if it goes well, because you're going to validate your thoughts. So you're not going to think, I'm going to fail at this. And then all of these amazing things are going to happen in the meantime. You're still going to see every single piece that's not going well and totally overlook the pieces that are.
Right.
And so when we start to build your confidence, it starts to put you into that place and you start to understand that that's just self-sabotaging. But then you take it even further and you start to understand why you're doing it. Like, are you fearful of outcome? Are you fearful of judgment? Do you have low self-worth? Do you think that you don't even deserve success?
Mhm.
Right. And
Right.
so you start to get to those deep-seated beliefs, and then you realize, oh, I can do whatever I want. Right.
Right.
There's nothing that can stop me because I've worked through these key areas.
Okay. It's like when you are so worried about something and you have like such anxiety around something and you do it anyways, you kind of like
Mhm.
push your fear aside and just to do it. And you're like, okay, I can actually do this. I didn't die. It wasn't bad.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's go to the next thing. So it's just like step by step by step.
exactly. Yeah. And the goal is to never not be uncomfortable because things that we do in life are always uncomfortable, especially
Right.
if they're not familiar.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're not familiar, with an action or the next step or an outcome, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's just the growing pains from it.
Right.
So it's really learning to embrace the discomfort of growth and recognize that that's more comfortable. I would much rather be uncomfortable and growing
Right.
than uncomfortable and stuck, right? Because that's permanent. Like I'm not going to outgrow that because I'm refusing to.
Right.
So I would much rather, no matter what, I'm going to face discomfort. So I'd rather be going to the top
Right.
uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
So exactly.
Because when you get to the top, you'll be comfortable again. You'll be because you have will come back
Mhm,
and or come so far
mhm,
and look
mhm.
back and it would be more comfortable. Like the
Yeah,
next
it's
time.
more comfortable, right? Yeah. And then then that's your familiar comfortable. And
Right.
now you want to take it a next step. Now that's uncomfortable again, right?
Yeah.
But you recognize, like you said, that you can grow and you're fine and you've lived
Yeah.
and look what you created from it. So it's such a beautiful journey. And then also just embracing that process
Hmm.
of discomfort can be just life changing because now we're not resisting it. The more we resist something, the worse it becomes, right? The bigger problem it becomes, the more we see it everywhere. So the less we resist and we just accept that it is uncomfortable, then we'll step into it much easier.
Okay. I really like that. That does give you like hope. So for
Yeah.
someone who
Yeah.
is, like, feels hopeless in certain things, I
Mhm.
think that's really good to hear. It's never a
Yeah.
hopeless situation. There's always a way to overcome whatever it is that you're going through to get out of
Right.
it.
Absolutely. Have you ever taken a cold bath, like a ice bath?
Yeah. And they're
Yeah. So
terrible.
they're
Or like a
horrible, right?
cryotherapy or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you're standing there and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But then whatever reason you do it and you get in there and then all of a sudden you go numb and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, well, it's not so bad. What was I worried about? And then you get out and then a little uncomfortable again as your body's coming back
Mhm.
and then you're invigorated.
Right.
Right.
That's
And
what
then you
you're like,
repeat the
I want to do
process
that
again.
again.
And then
Yeah.
you do it again. And then you do it again. And each time it doesn't become more comfortable.
Right.
Right. But your mindset becomes, I'm going to survive and I can do it. I can handle the discomfort.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I like to look at this as well. Like kind of looking at those tangible ways that we do this on a daily basis anyway. And then just keep showing up like that.
That's such a great example. I really like that. I can resonate with that. I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
like do it. And if you haven't tried cryotherapy for anyone, I feel like they should
Yeah.
definitely do it. It's incredible.
Highly
So
recommend.
good
Yeah.
after.
Highly recommend. Yes. Mhm.
Definitely. So what about someone who is a little more insecure and they have a little more trouble? Like I feel like when you're insecure, everything is kind of like all your energy is inward because you're kind of so worried
Mhm.
about yourself and how people are gonna, perceive it or think about, what their thoughts are gonna be towards you when in reality
Mhm.
people aren't really thinking about you at all. So how
Yeah.
do
Mhm.
you get comfortable with yourself so that you can do that? Is it just still stepping outside of your comfort zone and pushing yourself a little bit more and
Yep, a little bit, but there's a little bit more delicacy with it because if you're uncomfortable and you don't recognize your strengths and those core pieces of yourself, then it's just, well, I did it, I was uncomfortable, and I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to stay uncomfortable, and I'm not going to recognize my growth. So if someone who's really insecure and they have a lot of like low self-worth, that
Mhm.
really shows up in a lot of places because now they don't feel worthy of the money, they don't feel worthy of people's time, they don't feel worthy of so many different factors,
Yeah.
right? That's just in life. And then we translate that to in your business, and now you're really tanking it, right?
Mhm.
So the way that I like to approach someone with low self-worth, which is most of us, right? I would say on average, I've really never worked with anybody. And like I said, I worked with hundreds of people who didn't have a level of low self-esteem, right? They didn't think they were capable of what they were working towards.
Mhm.
So there's, of course, different varying degrees of that. So someone who's really struggling, the way that one, it would be to look at where that experience came from and why that belief's so low. Like what in your environment currently or your past environment
Mhm.
put you into this place of lack,
Right.
right? The lack of love of self, these different aspects.
Yeah.
And then it would be to start to find truth in what's true and what's not. So then it'd be grounding yourself in what's true. Well, of course you're innately worthy. You're just born worthy, right? Your
Yeah.
enoughness is enough just
Right.
by
I
being
love that.
here, right?
Yeah.
So then we start to build that part up. So then it's no distinguishing factor. And then we release the ideal of validation.
Mhm.
No good validation and no bad validation from anybody else. So no atta girls and no you did a terrible jobs matter. The
Okay.
only thing that matters is that deep internal understanding that we showed up and we did what we meant to do. Right. So now the way that you can ground yourself with low self-worth is doing just that. You turn that mirror and you say, what am I proud of? Right. What am I proud of here? And then you lean on that. What did I learn that I can improve?
Yeah.
Well, I can improve that, but I'm proud of this. End list, right? We don't go multiple different ways.
Okay.
So this goes to also like fear of judgment. When you're really worried about what other people are going to think or say about you, these are all the thoughts that you already think about yourself, right? Other people are mirrors to us. So what happens is what I really encourage is to ask yourself, okay, well, I judge myself for this, right? Which leads to low self-worth.
Right.
I judge myself for this. What am I proud of in this exact area?
Hmm.
Every single time you just write them out. I judge for this. I'm proud of this. I judge for this. I'm proud of this. So that retrains your brain to recognize, yeah, I'm not happy with what happened or what I said or what I did or the outcome, but I'm really proud of something within that.
Okay.
And so then you grasp onto that piece, and it becomes a lot easier to be proud of yourself after that.
Right. I can see that.
Mhm.
That's great advice. I never really thought about just like writing it down and kind of,
Mhm.
to see where exactly you can excel in an area, but it's
Yeah.
never really failure either because you still learn from
Mhm.
your experience.
Exactly.
I mean, failure is great
Mhm.
because without failure, you would you would never
Yeah.
go forward. So,
Exactly. And you would never succeed at the place you really need to succeed.
right.
Like, so for me, my story is tainted with low self-doubt, low self-worth. I mean, I didn't think I was capable of anything, right? Like I ran away anytime I had any momentum. Anytime I had momentum, you
Mhm.
better believe I self-sabotaged that thing to the ground. And so there was nothing left for me to take with me. And I thought, why do I do that? I started to learn that these were my behaviors, because if I self-sabotaged my success,
Mhm.
then I wasn't responsible for it. Right. And if I'm not responsible for it, then it's external factors and I don't have to deal with it. Right. It wasn't on me for
Yeah.
various reasons. And so when you start to realize that when you take momentum and you get out of the way of that momentum, you can really be successful. And the thing is that momentum doesn't mean no challenge. And momentum doesn't mean that there's going to be a form of failure, right? Like,
Right.
because there are things, I've started many things in my life and I didn't succeed at them. So
Mhm.
we could call them failures, but I'm so glad they didn't succeed because I wouldn't be here right now with the lessons that I have today because of it.
Right.
So each time something doesn't work out and you evaluate that, you can just say, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for not staying in my life any longer than was meant to, because now I can put my time and attention and energy into the thing that launches me forward. And
Right.
sometimes it takes us a while to get to that thing. And it can be really frustrating. People hate when I say this because they're like, no, I want this thing to work. And I'm like, well, you're
Right,
not in
right
control
now.
of that,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe you're putting so much resistance onto it because it's not the thing for you,
Right.
right? So that's another thing that you want to work through is things shouldn't be extremely difficult, right? And
Right.
so if you remove your own resistance and it's still really difficult, there's likely another reason.
Oh, so it goes even deeper then.
It goes even deeper. Yeah.
And do
Yeah.
you help people with that as well? Just going even
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
that's good to hear. Um,
Mhm.
so as a mindset coach, you can obviously identify blocks that people have just in conversation, correct? I think that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions. So,
Mhm.
I think we've kind of already touched on a lot of these questions. What usually holds people back from reaching their goals or going to the next level? So it's all
Mhm.
mindset, basically, like you had said.
Yeah, it's mindset. It will, so it's mindset, but it's the mindset specifically on the view of self,
Okay.
right? So money stories play a role here as well.
Mhm.
So if people have a certain money story, they don't think that they deserve a certain level of money, or they think they have to work really hard for the money that they deserve or
Right.
that they receive. But
Yeah.
they pumped out a chorus and now that paycheck's coming in,
Mhm.
and for some reason they're going to self-sabotage it because that doesn't add up to the story that they have.
Okay.
So anytime we're on a path of anything and
Mhm.
it doesn't match up to the story we have in our head, good or bad, that's when we derail, right? That's when we start to search for the things that match up for that. So
Mhm.
for me, my story was I would never be successful. I'd never make it anywhere in life. Like that was just my story.
Yeah.
And so anytime I started to be successful, that didn't match up with what I was telling myself. That didn't match up from my view. So I would make it match up. So I would derail my progress until I matched up with the view of not being successful.
Right.
And so that's really why people don't make it to the next level, or they don't create the income that they want in their business, or they hold themselves back, or they have crappy relationships, or, all these different things, is because the view of themselves is what it is. And so when you can change how you view yourself and how you perceive your reality, then everything starts to change, because you're no longer energetically trying to match to that
Right.
view of yourself, that perspective, that reality that you created.
It's so interesting that you see that, because oftentimes we see other people going through those things and we're like, well, just don't do that. Just don't,
Yeah.
you're totally worthy of this. Don't stay in that relationship. Don't stay at that job.
Yeah.
Don't, which is so funny.
Hmm.
In ourselves, we just can't see it and can't tell ourselves
Yeah,
the same things. Yeah.
exactly.
Worst critics.
Hmm. Yeah. And then we'll justify it. Well, I have to stay in this job because I have to pay my bills. And
Right.
it's like, well, if you double down on your other business, you could pay your bills that way and be happy.
Exactly.
Right. But it's safer. It's not more comfortable, but it feels safer in
Right.
the other realm. So when we start to recognize what our perceived safety is,
Mhm.
and we can also change that safety factor, then we can be more decisive with our decisions.
Mhm.
Decisiveness is another thing that happens, right? But decisiveness comes from self-doubt and low self-worth, right? These are all intertwined. So we all talk about the same things. They
Mhm.
all just have different labels, which is why I like to just get down really, really deep to that ooey gooey center
Yeah.
and figure out what that thing is,
Right.
because it translates beautifully any area, right?
Mhm. I love that. Okay.
Hmm.
So, okay, is there advice that you can offer on making better decisions then if you're kind of stuck in a place and
Yeah.
feel
Hmm.
not worthy of whatever it is that you
Hmm.
are really wanting out of life?
Yeah. Yeah. So my first advice is to go back and listen to everything we just talked about, right? So to really ground yourself
Yeah.
into what the story is that you're saying. Because the thing is, if you decide to make a decision, but you haven't done the work,
Mhm.
then you're going to get 10 steps forward and you're going to go 20 back,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Just like my story, right? So you have to be really clear on that first. And then when it comes to being more decisive, I always like to say, is this in alignment with me? Right? What's the alignment I need right now for this to be the decision that I make?
Mhm.
Does it feel good? What is it that I'm looking for, and what's out of alignment? Why do I feel resistance to it? Is the resistance coming from the fact that it's not actually a good opportunity for me? Or is it coming from a place of lack, scarcity, fear? And if it's coming from those three,
Mhm.
well, then I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
But then if it's coming for basic survival, right, and preservation
Right.
of whatever, then I'm going to listen to that. So it's a really intuitive process.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, to be confident in those things, you have to do that deep, deep inward work first.
Right. So how long did it take for you to change your story?
So that's a really great question. Um, it's actually really interesting because for me, I didn't know it was happening.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't like sit down and think, I'm going to change these stories. I went through so that's why it's so expedited with my clients. Cause I'm like, we sat down and like, we're going to change these stories and we just do it. Right. But for me, I didn't realize I was doing it. And what happened was I ended up getting this job at a really big coaching company. I worked for a really high coach in the high performance industry.
Okay.
And so I was coaching there. And through that process is where I started to realize all of these different things that I was doing.
Mm.
And so by helping other people in this container, I realized, oh, and so then I started making shifts inward. And I started doing a lot of really deep work on myself. Why do I do that? Why does that trigger me? Why am I so reactive to my husband? Right? Why, when my client says this, do I cringe?
Right.
And it's like, because I feel the same way, right? Because they're my mirrors.
Yeah.
And so then I started to do that shift. Whenever I started to recognize that, it didn't take me long,
Really.
right? But I think that I was really preparing and prepping myself for that
Mhm.
for, I don't know, probably like a year or so. And then once I realized what was happening, it shifted. It was almost like, and this is going to sound crazy, but it's almost like overnight. Like I woke up and I'm like, dude, I'm good. Like I'm good at what I do. Like, like what, like,
What
and
a moment to
I
have,
just,
like
exactly. Like I just started to really believe in myself,
Okay.
and not from external validation, because there were some things that, you know, some maybe a negative thing that could have been like, oh, maybe I'm not. But I was like, no, I am. Right.
Mhm,
That's somebody else's perspective of a moment. And I can go back and analyze it, and my perspective's different.
mhm.
Right. And so we have two competing perspectives, and neither one of them are wrong. And so I'm going to choose to still believe in myself and my abilities to move forward with what I want.
Oh,
So
that's good. I mean, it's such a good story. I do like
thank
that.
you.
I'm so glad that you realized how good you are too. Like that had to have
Thank
been
you.
quite the moment to just be like, wait a minute, I am
Yeah.
good. I am deserving.
Yeah.
I am able to make
Mhm.
changes in people's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
make it
then to extend upon that a little bit. So I had that realization, I'm good, right? I'm good at what I do, and I don't mind sharing it. But I still didn't believe in my ability to run my own business.
Oh,
Right. So that's a key there as well. Right. So I made excuses of why, well, now I have to advertise, now I have to put my stuff out. Right. Like, and I was like, I don't want to do that. But that wasn't it. That was just an excuse.
yeah.
And then another life-changing moment for me, I was actually at a meditation retreat when this happened. And then after I had this kind of like transcendental like experience, when I like grounded myself back, I had this thought of, I have to do this on my own.
Mhm,
Right. And so when I said I'm going to do this on my own and I doubled down on me,
mhm.
that was November of 2022. So just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And since then, my business has exploded, where my one-to-ones are full. I'm moving into group programs because I can't take any more one-to-one clients at the
Mhm.
moment. And so, but that's because I completely stepped out of my own way, and
Yeah,
I doubled down on the belief in myself and the belief in my business.
yeah,
And I thought, I can do this. Why not? Right? Why not me?
right.
If that would have happened a year ago, I'd probably still be trying to make my first landing page. I'd be
Right.
like, no, it's not good enough. No, I don't want to put this
Yeah,
offer out. Right. But
yeah.
I just got to the point where I was like, why not me? Right.
Mhm.
And that really, really exploded.
That's
So I
incredible.
wanted to share that with that piece as well, because it's like not some fairy tale story. Like I've tried to do this a few times.
Yeah.
Right. I've tried to be my own coaching business a few times, and it was successful.
Mhm.
But then again, I would derail it, and I'm not derailing anything this time.
Oh, that's
So that's the beauty of the story.
it'd be so good to hear, like, what happens in November of this year when you've been at it for a full
Yeah,
year to see exactly how much
I
has
know. I'm so
changed and how
excited.
far you've come. Like,
So,
that's
so
so
excited.
awesome.
Mhm.
So, okay, so are there certain skills that individuals can focus on to change their mindset? I think we kind of already covered that though, right?
Yeah, I would say specific skills would be, let's see, your ability to separate yourself and look at yourself as a third party, right? Evaluate yourself as if you weren't you.
Yeah.
Right. So, like you said earlier, we would tell a friend to leave, or
Mhm,
we would tell a friend to change or to stop doing that, but
mhm.
we don't do it for ourselves. So
Right.
there's an ability to disassociate
Mhm.
with your life
Okay.
and the actions and the situation. Right. And
Yeah.
that's really difficult. That is a big skill that doesn't just happen overnight,
Yeah.
but
Some
the
work.
more you do it and the more you ground yourself in your skills and your abilities, the easier it is to step back and say, I did not show up my best self there. That was something I wish I wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Right. Like in that moment, yes, I can see and validate why they had that experience, but also XYZ. I'm really proud of myself. And that's when you go through that whole list. So
Okay.
the validation of the not so good experiences, they just are what they are. I'm not going to repeat that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to repeat those things next time. So
Right.
I would say that's your biggest skill, is being able to pull yourself out of a situation and look at it as if you were a third party.
Okay. Wow, that's so awesome. So just you're not looking at yourself. You're looking at someone else who
Yeah.
is like you.
Hmm. Exactly. Hmm.
Um, Another question was, does confidence have anything to do with my appearance? Which I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
So No, confidence is not and that's what most people think of when they think of confidence. They think,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm going to show up, my shoulders back, and I'm going to own this room. My energy is going to come in, but that energy comes from within,
Mhm.
right? So like what you do a beautiful thing by helping people look and feel confident.
Mhm.
But you could put them in the nicest thing, and if they still show up and their energy is that of I don't belong here. These clothes are I don't even belong in these clothes, right? This is just a facade. And you
Yeah.
can't own the way you're showing up,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
that image it comes from. So those are the external validations. Like when we change our appearance of whatever reason, those are external validations that can make us feel more confident. And those are great boosters, but you
Yeah.
have to do the work to continue to feel that way,
Right. Because
right?
it come from
That's where that really comes in. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Mhm.
totally I get that a lot.
Yeah.
People are like, "Well, I
Right.
don't
But
know
then the
why."
opposite of that is if we don't feel good, if we're wearing frumpy clothes, if
Right.
we don't feel good in our body, right? If we don't like our hair, if we don't do those things, it is hard to feel confident because we
Right.
have external factors that impact us. And
Exactly.
that judgment's not going to go away from ourselves.
Right.
But that comes down to, well, own your worth and show up the way you want to show up,
Mhm.
right? Go to the gym, go get your hair done, find the clothes that you like, right? Have the confidence to be able to do those things.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
all very, very, very much connected because our personal appearance is a huge factor on
Mhm.
how we feel and how other people see us, but
Right.
it's not the driving factor. The
Exactly.
driving factor is the energy behind it. Yeah.
100%. Totally
Mhm.
agree. Um, Another question was, how can I stop doubting myself? But did we answer that one already? I feel like we did.
We did roundabout. So you start doubting yourself by grounding yourself. We'll go back and watch the rest of it,
Right.
but really grounding yourself in your worthiness, your enoughness, just knowing that the decision you make is not permanent. And that's another huge thing
Nothing
where I
is
really want
permanent.
to
I
talk
just
on this.
know.
Exactly.
Like, that's something
So
I've had to
we
tell myself. Like, you're only going through
yes.
something. Everything is temporary. It's subject to change. Nothing is permanent and set in stone. So
Exactly.
it's the
And
hard.
so I always like to share this example is that we always make the best decisions we can in the moment.
Mhm.
Hindsight might tell us differently, but there's no bad decisions,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, for the most part, we don't just sit here and think, I'm going to make the worst decision possible for myself. Like we don't
Right.
consciously think that. Now, subconsciously maybe sabotaging, but
Yeah.
consciously we don't. Consciously we make the best decision we can in the moment. So
Mhm.
there's never a wrong decision. So when you recognize that you've always made the right decisions,
Mhm.
everybody else always makes the right decisions, no matter how we perceive them or not.
Yeah.
Then then you go back and you ground yourself into that practice we talked about of what did I learn from this?
Right.
Right? What didn't go well? What can I improve? And what am I proud of?
Yeah.
Right. So then it's just this full circle loop that can help you not doubt yourself as much.
Right. Okay, that's really good. Um, what is a good way to respond to criticism then if you're kind of struggling with your own self-worth and you're getting criticized from, by, I don't know, someone close to you, like a spouse or a really good friend
Mhm.
or somebody, a parent, like how do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really sensitive question too.
Yeah.
But once you get, and I say this a lot, and there's a lot to this, so I really want to point that out as well. It's on overnight fix. But once you start to ground yourself, this goes back to the no external validation period. No
Mhm.
good validation, no bad validation. So if somebody's criticizing us over and over and over and repeat,
Mhm.
one, we're going to have to set some boundaries, right? Boundaries need to be set, and you're going to have to make some choices for yourself, right? Do we speak up to this person? And there's a whole list of things that we can go into, but I don't really want to share those in depth right now because they can get a little sticky if you're not prepared for them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So then somebody can go be like, well, I heard Kayla tell me that I'm, XYZ, right?
Right.
There's a lot more to that
Yeah.
boundary that needs to be set. But that's the thing. It's having that, it's believing in yourself and your worth enough to know a boundary that needs to be set and
Mhm.
even a cord that needs to be severed.
Right.
Right. So that's a deep issue. But the thing is when you're not worried and you're not basing your own opinions on yourself from the opinions of others, they can say what they want. They're talking to a brick wall, right? Because your energy within is that of self-acceptance and
Mhm.
love and growth and capability. That's
Right.
it. So somebody else can say you're a worthless piece of crap and you're going to be like, "Thank you for saying that." Right? Because
Yeah.
you're not, right? And so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That's the point we're getting to,
Yeah.
right? So that was me. when any type of, because my love language changed. So my love language was words of affirmation. I needed people to tell me I was good. I needed it. I
Okay.
craved it.
Yeah.
And now I don't care. Right now it's like, if you say I'm great, thank you. If you say I'm not, thank you.
Right.
Right. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it came from the fact that I know my strengths, but I also recognize my weaknesses. So
Mhm.
if you point out my weakness right now, I'm gonna be like, good observation. That is a place I am not strong at.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I'm okay with that because I recognize it. So I'm not offended by it because it is a weakness.
Yeah.
And so does that make sense of how
It
when
does make
we
sense.
know ourselves so deeply, we really can just move through life a lot smoother.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense, and it's such good advice. I can see a lot of people struggling with that if they've had a lot of trauma or a lot of
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
negative, just a negativity, I guess, just in
Yeah.
their background. That's really gotta be
Mhm.
hard. It's gonna take some work to process through all of that to
Yeah.
get to that point, but I think that's incredible. If you can sit down and be like, "Okay, whatever, I'm good with
Yeah.
me. That's all that
Yeah.
matters." Yeah,
Hmm.
that's an incredible
Yeah.
place to be, I think.
Yeah.
So we
Mhm.
do have one more question. It was, I struggle with doubting my professional abilities. How can I overcome that?
Mm. So the doubt and professional abilities come deeply rooted in the doubt in the personal side. They're
Okay.
not separate,
All right.
right? And so it is just you as a core,
Mhm.
especially if you're running your own business. But it's those doubts that we feel about ourselves on a personal level,
Mhm.
right? Like, I'm too loud. I talk too much. I don't follow through. I don't do this. Those are just ingrained in us through all areas.
Right.
So how you work on that is, again, same thing. Like I said, it's all the same thing, just a different name or title,
Yeah.
right? Everything that it is
Oh,
just
I love
labeled
that.
slightly different, right? So you just ground yourself back in what you are good at. And if you're doubting yourself, it's going to go to, why are you doubting yourself? Is it because of fear? Or is it because it's not the right place for you, right?
Mm,
Maybe it's not. Maybe that's a decision that needs to be made. Maybe that's
yeah.
where the evaluation needs to happen. Maybe that's where things need to shift a little bit.
Mhm.
And so it just goes back to a lot of the things we just said accumulated into that.
Okay. So if someone has to pivot to actually do something, like how would you suggest doing that if they're feeling just kind of, I don't know. For some people, it's really hard to make certain changes. Like some people stay in jobs for years because they hate it. Some people
Mhm,
stay in their business even though they don't enjoy it at all. How do you
mhm.
pivot out of something you're not enjoying to something you are to get over, you know, all
So I'll
those.
tell you right now,
Mhm.
when you are so satisfied with yourself inward, it's not hard to make that decision because you're
Mm,
no longer going to do things that don't serve you. Right. So
yeah.
I'm no longer going to put myself into a position where I'm at harm. And I say harm in multiple ways, right? Not necessarily physical harm, but just my mental capacity is just being tanked. I'm not going to do that because I respect and I know myself enough. Does that mean that every time something gets uncomfortable, I say peace out? Absolutely not. But I'm going to recognize that this is my worth and I have a choice,
Mhm,
right? It's all about choices. You can choose to stay or you can choose to leave,
mhm.
but you can't put that choice on anyone else. It's yours.
Right.
So if you choose to stay, validate why you're staying. Well, right now I need this income because if I quit right now, I'm going to lose my house, right? And
Right.
my kids won't have a place to sleep. Well, then you absolutely should keep that job in the interim
Yeah.
while you figure other things out. But don't use it as an excuse because there's other places you can work,
Right.
right? And that's the thing we have to recognize that everything we do is a choice. You're not held captive.
Mhm.
So you can choose to pivot,
Yeah.
even when it's scary. But then you go back to everything we just talked about. And why is it scary?
Mhm.
Right. And when you believe that you can, things really just start to open up.
Right. Well, that has all been so good. That's all the questions that
Mm.
I've
Oh,
had
those
today.
are great
Oh,
questions. Those are
good.
wonderful questions.
Well, you did such
Mhm.
a good job explaining everything. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the
Thank
time
you.
and
Thank you.
going through everything. And how can people reach you if they have questions or they want to work with
So,
you or
yeah.
programs you have coming up?
Yeah, so you can find me. Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram. I respond very quickly to my DMs over there. So you can find me over there if you have any questions about anything. I will be here for a little bit longer in the group answering some questions that you guys have. And then if you want to check out, I have a quiz that if you go to kaylabirchcoaching.com, you'll be able to find it, or kaylabirchcoaching.com/quiz. Either one will take you there for now. Um, And what this quiz is, it'll show you your biggest block, so your biggest confidence block right now that's preventing you from growing your business. And when you get your results, it'll actually take you to a 5-day challenge as well. So you're going to be able to walk through a lot of these surface things. So it's a really, really powerful free 5-day challenge that I really just encourage you to just dive into and just to immerse yourself in it and see what comes up. And there's a lot of good prompts and things like that in there. But yeah, find me over at Instagram and then check out my website.
That sounds amazing. I will go ahead and link everything below too, so everyone knows how to reach you just in case they can't. Sorry, Holston
Awesome.
is being a little, he's being ridiculous right now.
You're right.
He wants to be held. Kayla, thank
Oh,
you
that's
so
so
much for taking the
cute.
time today and for hanging out with us for a little bit. And I really appreciate you being here. You can
All right. Thank you so much, Christina.
share your information too below. So
Mhm.
hopefully people definitely reach out to Kayla. She's incredible. Like I've been talking about you so much. So you
Oh,
know.
thank you so much. I appreciate that wonderful endorsement, right? There's my love language coming back out. Thank you for
Exactly.
words of value.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, was that not incredible? Isn't she just so great in breaking down the steps that you need and push past those things that hold you back so that you can actually change your story and become the success that you want to be? And that can be successful in your job, that can be successful in your business, that can be successful in your home life, as a partner to somebody, as a son or a daughter or whatever it is. It really just a better friend, like it really does inspire you to change your story and really does make you see that change is actually possible. So if you got value out of the call with Kayla today, I hope you consider liking this video, subscribing if you haven't, and feel free to leave a comment for myself or for Kayla. I will put all her contact information down below as well. So you can reach out to her if you have any questions or if you want to take her quiz or if you want to work with her one-on-one. I will also link her IG so that you can get in contact with her. But thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Take care.